G shape, C chord, pentatonic, and major scale position 1, or G shape, C chord scale position. Get ready because it's time to rock and or roll. Here we are in our worksheet where we have the top string on top, that being the low or heavy E string, string closest to the ceiling, the high E string, the one closest to the floor on the bottom, the 0 representing the open fret, the one which, if indicated, we would not be putting our finger on, but ringing it out as open. Frets 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, the ones that we would be putting our finger on if indicated in this case by the orange items down below. We are now looking at the G shape in the C position. Let's recap this by going to the open position for the C shape up top. And this is the position most people would know a G shape in. They probably would be saying this is a G, this shape. But note, as you make the G shape in the open position, you want to be distinguishing in your head that it's a G shape in the open position so that you can then move the shape forward, call it a G shape without it contradicting the fact that you're now playing an A chord, for example, a B chord, or a C chord, and so on and so forth. Noting that the G shape in the open position has a lot of the open frets. It's a nice full chord. So when you move it on down, then you may not be able to reposition your fingers as easily as you would with like a bar chord such as an A shape that you would be moving or an E shape that you would be moving. However, you still want to be able to move this chord up so that you can position yourself on the fretboard. You can, even if you're fingering it the same way and you're not fingering these items when you do move it up, you could still use this for a finger picking type of style. You could still arpeggiate. You could still play it in different arrangements. For example, this arrangement here, and then you could still, play chords in that arrangement as well. So that's going to be the open position. If we were to move the open position up, noting as we do that the E string and the finger that we would be holding down on it would be a G to start out with, is going to be the root of the position. So if we move it up, now it's on an A. If we move it up, now we're on a B. Moving it up, now we're on the C. So this then is going to be a G shape in the C position, noting that we can then break it down. We could play, for example, these 3 items to break it down into a chord. We can arpeggiate it, and we can use it to see where we are on the fretboard. Let's just recap the C major scale, which is a very common scale here to learn from a theory standpoint because it doesn't have the sharps or flats in it. So we'd start off with the C, skipping a step, so whole step, doing our whole half thing here. C, whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step back home, resolving to C. So that means, of course, the C scale is the one with no sharps and flats. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C. We can number it 1 to 7. If we take the 1, 3, and 5, that being the C, E, and G of the scale, that's what we should be fingering in this G position. So there's a C, there's an E, there's a G, there's a C, there's an E, there's a G. So you can see how you can finger this multiple different ways. If someone is playing the C chord, a normal C chord, you could voice that C chord differently here. This one you might recognize as kind of linked up with the A as the A position moves. We'll talk more about the links of the the A to the G position here, and we can start to play different components of this and arpeggiate along with the song to have different voicings. Now let's look at the pentatonic scale. So we're going to unhide some cells here, going from this item to that item, right-clicking and unhide. And so we're looking at the pentatonic. As we do so, remember this pentatonic, I'm going to go to the left and up, is going to be our major rock and roll kind of pentatonic position here, which you will typically learn, often people will learn in the position of a C major, although they might see it as an A type of scale because you start off on the A here. So this is a very typical type of position for many people to start off learning. Many people might see it as the pentatonic scale, even though there's 5 pentatonic kind of positions, and you might see it as like position 1 in the root or normal kind of starting position of a C or a minor. So let's take a look at it then. If we scroll on over, we're looking at this this G shape in a C chord position. here it is. So there's that rock and roll kind of pentatonic shape that many people know right in that home position. Again, many people might be playing this right there, the same pentatonic shape, learning that pentatonic shape, and they might be seeing it as just a pentatonic scale, or they might see it as an A because you start on the root of the A. But you want to kind of know, and this will help you if you see it as a G shape inside of it, that this C is actually the root of the whole shape. So you can call this basically a G-shaped pentatonic scale, a G-shaped chord pentatonic scale, chord being a 3-note thing, scale being a 5-note thing. But a lot of people will kind of understand your terminology there as you're trying to position yourself on the fretboard and position yourself there. So you could say it's a G shape in the open position, pentatonic scale, because now you're adding 2 more notes onto the chord in the key of C. Or you could say it's a G-shaped chord in the key of C and pentatonic scale on top of it, adding the other couple notes. It's also useful to note that this pentatonic scale is a nice one to look at and be able to see what the relative minor is, because that A there is the relative minor, which is another key that is very common to play in a guitar, because you got this nice open A right there, which makes it easy to kind of use that as a bass note in essence when you're playing around in an A minor type of position. So it's useful to know what the relative minor is oftentimes. And then of course what you can do is you can if someone's playing in the key of C, you can then arpeggiate in here. You could try to voice the chord differently by using then some items in the pentatonic scale and see how that sounds to your ear. You can then pick around along with the song as well with the pentatonic scales. And then we can add the major on top of it. So now we're going to say, all right, this is a G-shaped chord pentatonic scale, you can call it. Again, contradictory to an extent because the scale has 3 notes. Now we're talking 7 notes, but that'll position you, and then you could say it's in the position of a C. So G shape if it were in the open position, but it's a C chord because we moved it up. We know it is because that's where the root is, and that's where our finger would be pointing on the root. And then major chord because now you're saying I'm playing the shape around it, which would be one of the 5 normal pentatonic shapes, which would be the one I would call position 1, right around the major position of that G shape in the key of C. All right, so then you can add those other couple notes to try to pick along with as well, along with the song, or to accentuate your chords differently, and so on and so forth. If we go back to the theory over here, we can then say if you're playing a song in the key of C, which is quite common, then the chords that you can choose from typically would be a C major, and then you have the D minor, the E minor, the F major, the G major, the A minor, the B diminished, which most people will simply drop off. If you want to play the major chords, then you're looking the 1, 4, 5. That's going to be the C, the F, and the G. If someone is playing a song in the 1, 4, 5 key of C, then you can play the arpeggio over the top of it using this position. You can then add to it by playing the pentatonic notes in it, and then you can add to that by playing then the major notes. Those would be the succession of, the safest thing to the less safe thing to do. And then you can move this shape around to, of course, chase the chords as the song progresses from a C to an F to a G, moving this shape around so that root notes will go to the relative notes in the song as we move the shape around. And many people, again, will know this pentatonic shape, and that's the one they'll basically often move around. Again, sometimes a lot of people might move it around thinking it's like an A major, but it's really a C major, A minor. So keep that in mind as you're moving it around and working with other people with it.